7.1 earthquake has hit California just one day after another earthquake, which is now being described as a foreshock, and dozens of aftershocks. The latest earthquake reportedly originated in the same desert area of California between Los Angeles and Las Vegas and could be felt as far away as Las Vegas. It was just yesterday that a rolling 6.4 magnitude earthquake hit, which was the most powerful quake in that region in 2 decades. You can see chandeliers swaying. This is in Los Angeles. The epicenter was in a place called Ridgecrest. It was felt again as far away as Las Vegas, and depending on who you talk to and where they were, they experienced things very, very differently. In Ridgecrest, which is the epicenter, it's described as a violent shaking, and people are describing being terrified, people in tears. There was a fireball, which had been a home. Everybody did get out safely. That was confirmed by NBC News' Molly Hunter. And in places like Las Vegas where and Los Angeles, where you're seeing right now, it's being described more as like a seasickness, like a motion sickness, a feeling of vertigo, and people didn't feel necessarily panicked there, but has definitely been a series of episodes. One of the people that we want to talk to is our own NBC News anchor, Lester Holt, who is on the phone. He was in Santa Monica, California, in a movie theater, which I can't imagine being in a more scary place when something like that hit. Lester, hello, thank you for being with us, and take us through it, please.
Well, we've all been highly sensitized since the quake yesterday, that 6.4 one, and, the expectation that there might be further aftershocks we would feel here in the Los Angeles area. So it was on my mind that in the theater, you're sitting there and suddenly it began, and there was no, trying to second guess what it might be. Immediately I understood it was an earthquake. My wife and I look at each other, earthquake, and I don't know if she said or I said, if somebody said, we're fine, and we were. At that moment, and then it seemed to intensify, and that's the point I think that it became more concerning. And we and some other folks got up, made our way to an exit, went down several flights, and exited on the street level. We didn't quite know what to expect when we got out. The intensity of it made me think that we might encounter damage. There was no panic. One woman, however, was sobbing and having to be consoled by her husband as they made their way out of the theater. And now we're all, gathered around televisions watching the coverage here, the news conferences, and try to get a handle on this thing as to whether it's over. I think what's alarming for a lot of people in Los Angeles is what if that epicenter was closer to L.A.? This quake is bigger than the deadly Northridge quake here back in the 90s. It's a larger magnitude also than the Loma Prieta quake, the World Series quake in the San Francisco Bay Area back in the 80s. So a great deal of concern as to what would happen if an epicenter of a quake of that magnitude were to be closer to Los Angeles. You can certainly understand that the conversation about are we prepared is ramping up after this weekend.
Lester Holt, thank you so much, and I'm so glad that you are safe. Let's go to Molly Hunter with NBC News, who is in Ridgecrest, which is the epicenter of this whole series of episodes. And Molly, from what you've been describing, it is a much different situation where you are, which is the epicenter, as compared to people who are in L.A. and Las Vegas, and even just a few miles away from where you are.
That's exactly right. I've never experienced anything like this. I also was born and raised in California. I was in Los Angeles for that 6.4 on Thursday. I felt the 5.4 this morning around 4 a.m. and nothing compared to that 7.1. So our hotel is actually just over here. I'm just going to have Court pan over just so you can see the complete darkness. We're totally out of power, but we were sound asleep in our hotels. And I can't describe to you waking up to that kind of violent shaking. I looked up and the room literally felt like it was on hinges, just going back and forth. The entire curtains came down, and it was incredibly terrifying. I'm not sure I've experienced something like that. And we immediately got out of bed. Look, I was on the first floor. Our camera guy and our sound guy, Kurt and Brian, were up on the third floor. Brian was knocked out of bed. My producer, Angie, was on the second floor. All of her things were also knocked completely off the desk. Furniture messed around. We all ran out of the hotel, and then we went over to see that house fire, which you just described, that fireball. We do know that everyone got out safely, but we are at the hospital right now. There's an emergency command center, lots of emergency vehicles up here. And as far as at least the emergency services are concerned, everything is working as planned and as prepared. They're incredibly ready for this, and we're just going to have to wait and see what the fallout is after that 7.1.
Molly, have we've all been seeing pictures of these emergency crews that you have described. Have you witnessed them going, searching structures and taking a look at the roads? I know it's dark, so I can't imagine how they're even accomplishing all of this that they need to do. But have you seen that?
We saw it earlier today because after the 5.4, everyone was pretty freaked out, and officials said they were going to have to go out and actually look at some of these bigger buildings to see if there was foundation damage or structural damage that wasn't apparent to the naked eye. Look, some of these smaller structures like mobile homes, we can see if they're off its foundation. But the worry is that something like this, the hospital, that there's internal foundation damage. And so they had actually evacuated patients on Thursday out of an abundance of caution because they were nervous there might be some structural damage. But look, at this hour, we haven't seen any necessarily emergency vehicles going door to door. It's just too dark and too early right now.
Very long, hard job ahead of them. Molly Hunter, thank you so much. We will have continuing coverage of this earthquake on MSNBC and this NBC station. I am Melissa Rayberger, NBC News, New York.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.